50,000 years ago, in a cave in Siberia, someone dropped a needle. Not a stone tool, not a blade, a needle, carved from bird bone, no longer than your finger, with a tiny eye drilled straight through one end. It sat in the dirt at Denisova Cave for 50,000 years before anyone found it again. And that one small object rewrites what we think we know about how humans survived the Ice Age. Here's the picture most people carry: a caveman with a fur pelt thrown over one shoulder, gritting his teeth through the cold. Draped fur. That's it. That's the whole technology. Except draped fur barely works. Wind gets underneath it. Heat pours out through every gap. Someone wrapped in loose hide through a Siberian winter does not last long. A needle changes that completely. A needle with an eye means thread. Thread means you can stitch hide into something that actually seals against the body. Sleeves, hoods, a shape cut to fit a shoulder instead of just covering it. That's the difference between wearing a blanket and wearing a coat. But a single needle is just one data point. The real proof comes from a burial site in Russia called Sungir. Two children buried around 34,000 years ago, side by side, and covered head to foot in thousands of small ivory beads carved from mammoth tusk. At first, archaeologists assumed this was just extravagant jewelry. Then someone mapped exactly where each bead had fallen as the bodies decomposed. The beads weren't scattered randomly. They traced lines, cuffs at the wrists, a band around the ankles, rows running down the outside of each leg, exactly where a seam would sit on a pair of fitted trousers. The clothing itself had rotted away thousands of years ago, but the beads sewn onto it hadn't moved. They preserved the outline of garments that no longer existed. Jackets, trousers, even footwear, cut and fitted to the body with the same logic as modern winter clothing. This wasn't fur thrown over a shoulder. This was tailoring, using tools like the needle from Denisova Cave, ornamented and precise, on two children being sent into the ground in full winter gear. And here's the detail that actually matters. Neanderthals lived through European winters for hundreds of thousands of years. Their sites are full of scrapers, blades, hide-working tools, almost no needles, and nothing resembling the bead outlines found at Sungir. Modern humans show up later in the same frozen landscape, and suddenly this kind of evidence is everywhere. Some researchers think that gap is one real reason modern humans pushed into territory Neanderthals never fully occupied, and eventually crossed into the brutal cold of Siberia and beyond. Not a bigger brain, not a better spear, a needle, and the knowledge of how to use it. Later Ice Age sites go even further. Multiple stitched layers, one against the skin, one to block the wind, footwear shaped to an actual foot instead of just bound around it. That's not survival gear anymore. That's engineering, built from bone, sinew, and hide, refined over thousands of years of trial and error in the coldest environment humans had ever tried to live in. Neanderthals had fire for hundreds of thousands of years and never made this leap. Modern humans needed one bone needle and the patience to keep sewing through the dark. If this changed how you picture what actually got us through the Ice Age, subscribe. We dig up the real evidence behind ancient human life every day.